Welcome, everyone. Thanks so much for being here today. My name's Claire Hayes, and I'm excited to talk with you today about placing students in Read Naturally Live. I really appreciate all that you do for your students. I'm a mother of five and feel very indebted to teachers everywhere, and it just speaks volumes of the kind of teacher you are to be logged in here today. I suspect this is either your one prep moment of the day, perhaps it's over your lunch, and you're taking that time to learn something that you're hoping helps your students. So thank you for being that kind of teacher. What we're going to talk today about is placing students in Read Naturally Live. Of course, this task comes after planning and setting up. After adding your students, after getting them prepared, you're going to need to place them into the appropriate level and give them a story goal. And that is done through a process that we're going to talk about in a PowerPoint. I'm going to show it to you in the actual program, so you get to have experience it, not just through words, but through also an actual demonstration of it. After you place students, they implement the steps, and we have a webinar that talks about implementation of Read Naturally Live. And finally, once they've passed some stories and have some data, the next teacher responsibility is monitoring student performance. And we have webinars coming up on that for checking initial placement and keeping students challenged. So look for that as an option for you to learn more about what to do with the data that your students accumulate while working in the program. But today, let's just focus in on placing students. When you place students in Read Naturally Live, you're going to determine the right level, the right series, and the right story goal for each individual student. There are two phases of placement. The one we're talking about today is conducting initial placement. That is what has to happen in order for students to begin working in the program. They have to be put in the spot that is right for them within this program before they can begin working. The second phase is what we call checking initial placement. And what that is after students have passed a couple stories, it is a good time to take a look at that data and ask ourselves, are they in the right level? We have a feature in Read Naturally Live called Data Mentor. And what Data Mentor does is it takes the data from the student's first few stories and it gives a suggestion on whether or not the student needs an adjustment to their level or to their story goal. So we'll show you where that information is available. But that checking initial placement process is very important because it also incorporates comprehension information into it. It is not just fluency information, because conducting initial placement, what we're talking about today, getting them put in the right spot to begin with, only deals with their rate accuracy data. It's only dealing with a words correct per minute fluency score and whether or not they fit within that range. We want to get them placed as quickly as possible. They're behind, time is of the essence. And so our initial placement process is quick. It only takes about 5 minutes per student so that they can get going. And that second phase is what catches anything that were oddities, right? Anyone who got put in the wrong spot initially. Of the conducting initial placement of what we are talking about today, there are two options to you. There is teacher conducted placement and there's independent student placement. Okay, so you can imagine which one's better. The one that the teacher conducts is going to be superior to the one that the student does independently, because the student independent one is done through voice recognition, which is good. It is better now than it was 10 years ago. I hope that it's better in 10 years than it is now. But it is likely never going to be as good as the teacher sitting next to the student and deciphering whether or not they're reading the right thing. So teacher conducted is the gold standard, and student independent is the most efficient. And so you're going to have to kind of weigh the needs of your students and what kind of time you have to make the determination on what is best for you. Once you are going to place students, you have to think of what their needs are, right? Many of our students who use this program have fluency issues. And oftentimes then, of course, comprehension issues as a result of that. So we're going to put our students into one category that's kind of fluency needs. There's also some students who maybe just have phonics needs, although that's a rare situation. Most kids who struggle with phonics also struggle with fluency, and that is our third group. So we'll start with the most simple, the most straightforward. Students who are using Read Naturally Live to address their fluency and comprehension, like these two students on your screen, Rob and Anna. I'm going to walk you through, with Rob, I'm going to walk you through teacher-conducted placement, what it looks like when the teacher leads the student through placement to determine the right series level and story goal. With Anna, I'm going to show you what what independent student placement looks like. So we're going to show you what it looks like when a student takes themselves through placement through voice recognition. All right, so let's get started with these students. The very first thing that's done is that you have to estimate the student's reading level. So how do you do that? Well, if they show up at your door with absolutely no records on some random Tuesday, then you're just going to make a guess. But usually we know a little something about the students. So you take a look at standardized reading assessments. You can ask teachers that have had them in the past. Maybe there's some school records or formative assessments. And then, of course, an oral reading fluency assessment or screener can help you make the determination on where to start placement. You're not deciding on what level to put them in. You're deciding on which level to select to begin the placement process. Okay, so Rob is a fourth grader. He's well below expectations on standardized tests. His teacher says that fourth grade novels are a little hard for him. He's below expectations on fall benchmark fluency assessments. I'm going to do teacher conducted placement or teacher assisted placement with him. Okay. And if this was my student, a fourth grade student who's struggling a little bit with fourth grade material, I'd probably start testing in 3.0. Okay. If you thought, well, I'd start in 2.5 or I'd start in 3.5, that's fine. We'll get to the right spot eventually. Okay. Regardless, it's only a 1 minute timing per level when you're giving it to them. So it is a fairly quick process. So I'm going to pop out of the PowerPoint right now, and I'm just going to go into the teacher module, show you how to enroll a student. I'm going to add Rob as our student and give him a license. And then I'm going to walk him through teacher conducted placement within the program. Okay, so let me get into my Read Live account. I'm going to log in to the URL address as a teacher. I enter my account ID, user ID, and password. I click login and go to the home page. To add a student, I can go to the student setup tile and I click it. If I know that my student is not in the account, I will then click the button add student. If I'm not sure, it's a wise thing to look and make sure the student isn't already in there. So I can take a look at first name. Rob is his first name. I can click on that heading, enter the first few letters of his name and click apply. And I see that there is no one in the account with the first name Rob. So I'm safe to add Rob into the account. When I'm adding a student, I only have to add to the fields where there's an asterisk in front of them. If there's no asterisk, I don't need to complete that field unless I want to. I then need a unique user ID, a password. The password does not need to be unique. The only requirement is that it is 3 characters. I select yes for license the student. If you want the student to use the program, you have to say yes, they need a license. And then I select myself as their lead teacher. By default, the student's given access to Read Naturally Live and 1 Minute Reader Live. 1 Minute Reader Live is a totally independent reading program that's in your Read Live suite of programs. Never needs teacher support. It's great during independent reading time and gen ed. It's great as homework when they're at home without a teacher around, or maybe with a parent who doesn't read in English. It's also good for summer vacation, winter break, spring break, all those different kinds of times. You could also, if you're trying to teach kids to read in Spanish, that's available. So selecting and deselecting the program or programs that you want your student to have access to can be done here, but it can also be changed at any time. So if you're not sure, just leave it on the default setting and you can come back and adjust it when you are. Now you click Save and Add Another or Save and Close, and I can see that now Rob is on my list right here. Okay. So now that I know Rob is in there with a license, I'm ready to place him. I'm going to navigate back to my home page to locate the student activity tile. I can also locate the student activity tile through the drop-down menu in the upper left corner from any screen in the staff module. So I click student activity and it brings me to a list of students. And these are the students who are assigned to me as their lead teacher. If I want to see all students who have a license in Read Live, I can just close out of this teacher filter. And now this is a list of all students within the account that have a license. If I want to narrow it down so that I only see the one student, maybe I'm going to do assessments on fourth graders. My fourth grade group comes through first in the morning. And so I only want my fourth graders visible on my screen. I can come into the search criteria field, select the grade. I can also select from all sorts of other different criteria if I want. I click search, and now this is a list of just my fourth graders. I find Rob Robertson. I click the caret to the left of his name, which provides this drop-down menu. And I can see under the application column, Read Naturally Live and 1 Minute Reader Live. I am going to show you placement in Read Naturally Live. So I'm going to move my eyes over to the right to the column titled Assignment, where there's a placement button. So to do teacher conducted placement, the student needs to be sitting at the computer with you. You're both looking at the same computer. So when Rob is sitting next to me, I come in to this module, I click on placement. I estimate the level I think he's reading at. It tells me to do that. Instructions are listed right up here. Step 1, select the level to test. To begin, estimate the student's reading level and select the corresponding placement testing level below. Then click Next. Okay, so I think Rob's reading at about a third grade level. I click that, select Next, and now I have Rob read this story out loud for me. Okay, as he's reading out loud, I am keeping track of mistakes. If he makes a mistake, I put a little check mark on a pad of paper next to my computer so that when the minute timing is over, I can enter the number of missed words into this rectangle over on the side of the screen. Okay. The students place in a level that's a little bit above their instructional level. Students get a lot of support when they're working in this program. Because of that support, they are able to function in a reading level that they wouldn't be able to function in if they did not have the support of the program. So if you, when you're placing students, you think that seems a little high for this student, that is probably the correct level then. It is by design that they are put in a level that is slightly above their instructional level. They read along, they practice over and over again, and it allows them to function higher. It's one of the reasons the program stretches them as well as it does. So now the audio support said, click on the last word you read when the bell sounded. Then you can enter the number of mistakes into this box and click Next. And it tells me that on level 3.0, the student read 65 words correct per minute. The range is 30 to 60. So the student's outside the range. The student's results do not fit, so they can't recommend a level. They are telling you to click Next to test the level again, and they tell you even what level to test. The student's outside the range on the high end, so it wants you to test 3.5. You come back to the select levels page, click 3.5, and now you do the exact same thing with the next level above. Okay? And 9 times out of 10, your student is going to fit into this level, or maybe one level after this. On average, it takes about 2 levels till you find the right fit. And that is usually what happens. And the computer will say, yep, this is a good fit. And then you'll get to select the level options at that readability. Okay. What I'm going to do here is show you what happens in that that tenth of the time, 1/10 of the time. Every now and again, a student will place between two levels. What happens then is that all the options from both levels will be available to you. So if a student reads a little too well for 3.0 and not quite well enough for 3.5, the computer is going to allow you to select from any of those options in that range. And then you're just going to use what you know about the student to decide. So again, usually the student fits in the right level and you just pick from the short list. In this case, the student is not going to fit in either level. He's going to be between two levels. And so what it tells you is that the student's results place in between two levels. Use your knowledge of the student's strengths and needs to select a series, level, and goal from the list below. So all the options that are written at an early to mid third grade level are listed here. And you just select whichever one you think is best and click next. And now it's telling you that you're leaving the sequence series, or you're leaving placement, you're putting them in the sequence series, level 3.0 with a story goal of 95. Okay. That story goal is based on how the student read that passage from the level that you placed him in. So in the 3.0 passage, Rob read 65 words. The computer adds 30 words to that placement score and rounds to the nearest 5. So Rob's in level 3.0 with a story goal of 95 words correct per minute. Rob is placed, he can start working. We have something called student training videos on our website. So now Rob could watch those student training videos and then begin working in the program. Anna's an older student. And so Anna, as a 7th grader, is going to go through independent student placement. Okay, she's well below expectations on standardized tests. Her English teacher says 6th grade novels are tricky for her. She's below expectations on fall assessment. We're going to do independent student placement. Okay, so after you've added Anna, I showed you how to add Rob. You would add Anna the same way. And once you've added her, she can log in as a student. When she logs in as a student without being placed, so if you did not place her yet and she logs into the student module, there will be a gold button on the Read Naturally Live tile that says Conduct Placement. Anna will click on the Conduct Placement button, and she will then be asked if a teacher is with her or not. If a teacher is able to be with her, she can click yes. The teacher will enter her login information, and they will do placement exactly the way I just showed you with Rob. Okay, but if a teacher is not with her, she would click no, I'm working by myself. Then the computer would check and make sure that her microphone is working. There's a little microphone check. Once she checks that the microphone is working, there's a short video that the student watches. It's about a minute long, and it helps them navigate the page, shows them where to click to start the timing. It shows them how to do the reading guide, explains how to do that process in just a minute. Once that video is done, it disappears and the student clicks start timing and reads the story out loud. As it's reading the story out loud, the voice recognition is deciding whether or not it's the right fit. If it's not, they're going to get a message that says, let's try a better fit, and they'll keep getting passages until she lands on one that fits. What it's doing in behind the scenes, the student doesn't see this, but if the student reads a level 5.0, for example, at 85 words correct per minute, which is outside the range for 5.6, the computer has this little table in its AI brain, and it says, no, that's not right. 85 is outside the range. So we're going to try another story, and it will give her a level 5.6. Okay, so we'll keep doing that until she gets into a level that is a right fit. So in this case, in 5.6, she read 82 words correctly. That's between 80 and 100. That fits right within the placement range. The computer knows that. And so it says we have found a level and story goal that seem to be a good fit for you. Click next and start working in the program. She clicks next and she is ready to go. The goal that this computer took was that 82 And it adds 40 because Anna's an older student. For Rob, it added 30 because he was an elementary student. Anna's a middle schooler, so it adds 40, rounds down to the nearest 5. And now Anna can start working. You never had to do anything with her except add her and give her login information. Then she logged in, and with her microphone on her headset and voice recognition, the computer placed her into the appropriate level. She can get started without you having to do that process. So Anna's done. Anna can begin working in the program. So for students who have fluency and comprehension needs, that might be our largest group of students, that is how you do placement in Read Naturally Live. We also have a large group of students who have fluency and phonics needs, and there might be some who have just phonics needs. Okay. Now, there's one thing I want to mention about a student who is a beginning reader. Let's say you have a student who you think just has phonics needs, like this little Marcy here in the picture. You give her level 1.0 in the give her level 1.0 in the placement process, and she reads outside the range on the low end. So if you look in the lower right of my slide, right under the picture, you can see that the placement range for level 1.0 to 3.0 is 30 to 60. Well, if you give the student level 1.0 and they only read 23 words, you can still have that student work in the program, but only if she knows her beginning sounds and she can recognize at least 50 written words. If she knows her beginning sounds, can read about 50 words, not a specific list of words, but she knows a couple high frequency words, she can decode some CVC words, then she can work in the program. You can either put her in the sequence series 1.0 or the phonics series. I will tell you that I always put them in the phonics series. If they're outside the range on the low end, on the lowest level, the phonics series is easier. 0.8 is a little easier than 1.0, as the name would imply. So put her in 0.8. She'll get a little extra phonics lesson. Okay. And she's likely to be more successful there. Now, you have students who have both fluency and phonics needs, and some of those students can have all of their needs addressed within the phonics series of Read Naturally Live. Notice on this table, the middle column lists the phonics levels that are available. 1.0 correlates with 0.8, 1.5 correlates with 1.3, 2.0 with 1.8, and so forth. We have the phonics skills over in the right-hand table. So 0.8 short vowels, then long vowels, then blends and digraphs, and so forth. You are only going to consider phonics series placement for a student who reads at or below a Read Naturally 3.0. If your student reads above a 3.0, they cannot work in the phonics series. We do not have a phonics series level that's high enough for that student. It doesn't mean they don't have a phonics issue, and it doesn't mean you don't need to work on phonics. You just can't do it with the Read Naturally Live phonics series. You can do it with word warm-ups. Word warm-ups is a decoding and phonics program that is built into the Read Live suite. So if you have licenses in Read Live, your kids can use word warm-ups. It's not a separate purchase. You have access to it. And that is used when students read at a 3.5 or above. Because fluency needs and phonics needs don't line up very well, especially for older students. So then they might need to use two programs, one to address fluency and comprehension, and the other to address phonics and decoding. Okay. So you're going to consider phonics series placement if your student reads at a first through early third grade level. You would select the corresponding level to what's taught at the skill set. So 0.8 works on blends and digraphs. If you know the student struggles with blends and digraphs, you pick 2.0. Give them the placement test, and if they fit in the range, it's a good fit. Now, all this information is in that handout, this table that you would need is in the handout. That's in the link to it is in the chat box. It's also on our website in many places, and it's in the placement process when you're taking students through placement. So you don't need to memorize these things. They're listed for you in several places, and always in places where you might need them. So that is very helpful. But if the student's phonics needs and fluency needs do not line up, you're going to need to teach them separately. Okay? It tends to be older students when they don't line up. So let me give you an example of a younger student first. Ella is a second grader. I know she needs to improve her fluency. I know she struggles with long vowels, and I think she's reading at about a mid-first grade level. Okay, so I'm going to take Ella through teacher-conducted placement. She's only a second grader. I'm going to be there with her. And when I give her 1.5, she reads 45 words correct per minute, which is right within that range. Look, the levels are listed. The options for the levels are listed. You don't have to memorize that table you saw on the previous screen. It's listed here for you. So if she struggles with vowel pairs or long vowel silent E, and she places in this level, then you'll assign it. And in Ella's case, she struggles with long vowel silent E. So I'm going to put her in level 1.3, long vowel silent E of the phonics series. And Ella can work on phonics and fluency in the same place as she's working on comprehension. Can all be done in the Read Naturally Live phonics series. Okay, and that's very common for your first, second, third grade students. But once they get into fifth, sixth, seventh grade, it's different because most of them read at a mid-third grade level or above. We don't have phonics levels available at a 3.5 or above. So in that case, you're going to place Evan as if he didn't have a phonics issue. You're going to place him based on fluency. You think he's reading at a mid-third grade level. You're going to give him the mid-third grade level placement passage. If he scores in that range, you're going to pick either idioms or going the wrong way. Sorry. You're going to pick either idioms or sequence series. Okay. I usually pick sequence series as default unless there's a specific reason I want something else. But notice that there is not a phonics option listed. So again, don't need to memorize anything. It's just there's no phonics option listed. So I can't select it. So if I know that Evan has a phonics issue and there's no phonics option here listed, then that means I know that I'm going to have to work on phonics separately. Read Naturally runs a reading lab at a school near our office, and we have, depending on the year, usually second to fifth or sixth grade. And at the beginning of the year, almost every second grader is put in the phonics series. They read at a first or second grade level. They all could benefit from extra phonics work. And so most of them end up in the phonics series. Many of the older kids have phonics issues too. But those students will use word warm-ups to work on phonics. So if you have a student who only has phonics needs, like Marcy, or a student like Evan who has phonics and fluency needs, but they don't line up very well, you're going to use the program Word Warm-Ups Live. Okay, Word Warm-Ups Live is built into Read Live. It reinforces phonemic awareness and phonics. It develops mastery and automaticity in the decoding process, and it develops fluency. It's what I think it does that very, very well. All phonics programs teach kids phonics lessons, teaches them rules, gives them guidelines, it teaches them phonics. But not all phonics programs bring them to a level of automaticity with those phonics patterns. And that is what's essential to bridge that gap between reading choppy word by word and reading with fluency and understanding what you're reading. So this program introduces the phonics patterns, the sounds, the lessons, and then it has students practice enough that they become proficient with them. Within Read Live, there is a Word Warm-Ups Live phonics assessment, and there's a scope and sequence, okay? So if you don't know what your student's phonics issues are, like let's say Marcy, she's meeting her benchmark goals for fluency, but you know that she struggles decoding one-syllable words, okay? estimated below reading third grade, but I'm not sure what her earliest phonics need is, so I need to identify it using the phonics assessment. Within the phonics assessment, it will tell you whether or not there's a phonics series that correlates with that phonics scale. I'm going to say that again. In the phonics assessment, it will tell you right in that assessment when you're working in it. It will let you know if there's a phonics series that is at that teaches that skill. Okay, so again, you don't need to memorize where these things appear. It will be in the place where you need it when you need it. It will be listed there. Okay. So here is the phonics assessment. This is what the teacher record sheet looks like. You can see we're making check marks when they're right. We circle it. If it SD, if it's a slowly decoded or if it's a self-correction. We circle error if it's an all-out error. We total the score. If 3 or more errors or a total score of 6 or more, then you're going to put the student in this level. Or if not, you're going to continue testing. So she has a total score of 2 and only 1 error. So we're going to test at the next section D, which is long vowel pairs. And here we can see she has 3 or more total errors. So it lets you know that you can put Marcy in word warm-ups level 1 section D as in dog, because that's where long vowel pairs are. Or if a student reads below 3.0, use Read Naturally testing level 1.5 for possible placement in 1.3. Again, all of it's listed right at the moment you need to know it. Okay, so when you go through the assessment, this will be listed right on the record sheet that you're writing on, and it will provide you with the guidance you need to move forward. Okay, so as a student who only struggles with phonics, Marcy's only going to work in Word Warm-Ups Live level 1 section D. So she's done. Okay. Now, Evan is going to work in the Read Naturally Live to work on fluency and comprehension. But I know that he struggles with R control. Because I know he struggles with R control, I don't need to give him a phonics assessment. I already know that. One of the nice things about phonics is that the sounds and patterns are named in a way that they're easily identifiable in a different assessment or curriculum, right? R controlled is called R controlled, and you'll be able to find it on the scope and sequence. So if you know what Evan's phonics issues are, you'll locate them on the scope and sequence and then manually assign him that level and section in Word Warm-Ups Live. So Evan will work in Read Naturally Live level 3.5 for fluency and comprehension, and he will work in the phonics series level 1 section G to work on R controlled. Evan will use 2 different programs. He's going to use Read Naturally Live for fluency and comprehension and vocabulary, and he's going to use Word Warm-Ups Live for phonics and automaticity. Oftentimes when students use both programs, they will switch after the pass steps. So they'll go through all the steps and Read Naturally Live until they pass a story. Once they pass a story and Read Naturally Live, they switch into Word Warm-Ups. They complete an exercise in Word Warm-Ups. Once they pass that exercise, they switch back to Read Naturally Live. So that's one way to do it. Another way to do it is that you can set a timer for 10 minutes at the beginning of every class period. And everyone who's working in both programs starts with 10 minutes of Word Warm-Ups Live. When the timer goes off, they switch and go over to Read Naturally Live. So it's another way to manage it, to get both things in the typical routine of the day or the week. Now, placement results for teacher-conducted placement are provided. So you do not need to record anything. Notice the students' results are listed. The recommendation that the computer provided is listed, and the decision that you as the teacher made is listed. So don't worry about recording how they did or what they did wrong or where they were at. The computer is doing that for you, and you can easily run a report. For independent student placement, same thing. There's students' results. So you're still going to get to see how they did on the levels that the computer presented to them, what the computer decided was the right fit. Okay. So now we've gone through how to put students in the right level, how to select the right series, and how to set the story goal. I want you to remember that we do have a student's guide to Read Naturally Live. We have videos on student independent placement. We also have videos on each of the 4 programs within Read Live. And if you want, we have a lesson plan that you can take the whole group through instead of having them watch those videos. We have a help page. It's readnaturally.com // read-live-help. There's lots of helpful resources on our help page, so please look that up. I want to thank you all very much for joining us today. I really appreciate your time and dedication. I hope you all have a wonderful day.